YouTube! I've been wanting to film this video all day and my neighbors have been outside playing their music for the whole neighborhood all day. I'm really hoping that it's not going to pick up on the microphone. I'm really hoping you don't hear the subtle house beat going on outside. This video is sponsored once again by my favorite, Rain Total Body Fuel, the energy drink. Wait, gotta get that sound in there. Hold on. No sugar, 300 milligrams of caffeine. I guess it's time to make E3 predictions for 2022. Even if E3 isn't actually happening this year, this is true. It's true. If you followed me for any length of time, you know that E3 is like my favorite time of the year, and I just love E3. But the funny thing is I don't really love or care all that much about E3 as an entity. E3 is the name of the event that happens every year in LA. But of course it hasn't happened since the pandemic. In 2020 it was canceled and pretty much nothing happened. Like pretty much all game development companies were like, well, guess we'll try again next year. In 2021, E3 tried to do a digital event, which happened. It occurred. There was a Nintendo Direct that weekend. I live streamed the whole thing, and so I'm well aware of how it went, and I personally wasn't really happy with how they handled the digital event. I've attended some, especially during the pandemic, some really good, well done virtual events. I worked for a university. There were students that put on virtual events that were more comprehensive than what E3 did, in my opinion. I just think every single company that attended, that paid money to put on a virtual presentation like under the E3 bubble last year, could have done the exact same thing without the ESA. The ESA is the company that owns E3, the Electronic Software Association. I'm already not a big ESA fan. I'm not attached to E3 as an event, but I am attached to the idea of having a concise circle of time or event or whatever it happens to be when all of the game developers and console makers and press and Twitchers and YouTubers and just everyone decides this is the week when I want to talk about video games and nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. The day today is May 29th, 2022. If you haven't heard, if I didn't already say it, E3 2022 is not happening. It was announced a while ago that it wasn't happening in person, and then I believe in February E3 confirmed there will be no virtual event this year. They claim to be still hoping to come back in full force next year, so again, I don't care as long as we figure something out in the interim. It's fine with me. I'm still looking forward to the time of the year that would be E3 because I think we're gonna get pretty much the same amount of announcements, maybe a little bit less. Because obviously it's not as organized as it is when there is a singular event, but still, I think everyone's gonna be aiming for that same time frame. It's like all of the game media, media websites, YouTubers, and they all have their ears perked up for this time of year. They're waiting, they're ready. And so it still makes sense for game developers to come out with news during this time because then everyone is ready and chomping at the bit to get stuff out there. It seems that the week that we would have had E3 is 2 weeks from now. Xbox and Bethesda are doing their thing on Sunday, June 12th. Which is literally 2 weeks from today when I'm recording this. FYI, Jeff Keighley's also doing his summer game thing, which is a day long of live streams. I believe that's on Thursday, June 9th. So that's actually kicking off a little bit earlier. So if Xbox is happening on June 12th of this year, then what you would have had is likely Nintendo having their presentation on Tuesday, June 14th. I'm oversimplifying this a lot, so please don't. Well, actually, me in the comments, I get it. I know that this is, I'm combining the past 10 to 15 years of E3s into a generalization. I get it. It doesn't matter because E3 is dead. What I'm getting at is if we were following the traditional cadence of E3, likely we would be looking at June 14th of this year for a presentation from Nintendo, a Nintendo Direct, if you will. Does that mean that Nintendo's beholden to that date? No, absolutely not. Nintendo could decide that they don't even want to do a Direct, or they could come out and have it this week, or they could have it, in July. The point being, we don't know if Nintendo cares at all about the E3 cadence, but a nice shot in the dark guess would be June 14th. But NintendoFanGirl, they haven't announced anything yet. Does that mean that they're not having it? Don't fret, little one. In pre-pandemic times, when it wasn't a virtual, technically the Direct is still virtual, but it wasn't a virtual event, Nintendo would announce sometimes months in advance when their E3 Direct was going to be. So we knew well in advance, and part of the reason for that was because back in the day, you may be shocked to know this, but it wasn't something that they announced on social media. It was actually something they announced just via press release. Like, just as an example, if we were to look at 2019, I went back and looked, and Nintendo had announced that via press release on May 9th. When it's all virtual, and when the Direct is only virtual, and there's nobody planning to be there to watch it in person or to meet with people afterwards, it's a very different thing because they can kind of be loosey-goosey. They can announce things whenever they feel like it. So really, we're looking more for how a normal Direct is announced, which is not far in advance. In 2021, the Direct was June 15th. This was virtual, but it was still part of E3. And it was announced, all of the timing and everything was announced on June 2nd. So they gave a little less than 2 weeks warning. So just for the sake of argument, let's say we're going to have the traditional timing, June 14th Direct. That would say that our announcement would be this upcoming week, maybe June 1st. However, since there is no E3 and there's no need to launch the virtual website or anything like that, there's no pressure from the ESA for them to get information out. They could announce it the day before. They could just drop it without announcing anything. I don't think they're going to do that, but they could. And just for posterity, I'll mention the last Nintendo Direct that we had was February 9th. So it's been a few months. And it was 40 minutes, and we did get a lot of announcements out of it. So there's that. It's not like we have been completely starved for announcements. We got quite a bit, and we know a lot of stuff that's coming out this year. All of this to say, I think we're getting our Nintendo Direct that would have been part of E3 in 2 weeks. I'm going to stick with June 14th. Why not? Why not? It's a good day. Let's talk about what we're going to see. From this point on, I'm just going to be operating under the assumption that we're getting a Nintendo Direct this month. If we aren't, I don't know, pretend you never saw this. As of now, we are not starving for games to come out this year. We know that in June 10th, which is probably before we're going to get a Direct, Super Mario Strikers comes out. That's not what the game's called. Mario Strikers Battle League. I would say super solid chance that we'll see a teeniest little bit of free DLC for Strikers Battle League. And by that, I mean Daisy. Just Daisy. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes comes out in June 24th, so they could hype that up a little bit more. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 got moved up. I believe it was originally a September, maybe August title. I don't remember. All I know is that it got moved up to July 29th. And then Splatoon 3 got a September 9th release date. We also know Advance Wars was originally was supposed to come out in December 2021. It got pushed back to April 2022. And then because of the conflict happening in Ukraine, they just decided for sensitivity reasons, not wanting to appear to be completely out of touch with what's happening in the world, they're holding off on when they're going to release it. I would say September. Alongside Splatoon. Oh, there's not even August. All right, Advance Wars probably August. And then we've got Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Doesn't technically have a release date, just late 2022. I would bet you dollars to donuts that'll be November. And then Bayonetta 3 is another big one that doesn't have a release date, but sometime later this year. Oh, and then there's also Switch Sports DLC. I don't know if people want to count that as something big, but we do know that Switch Sports is getting golf sometime this fall, I think. Sometime this year. So that's all the stuff that we know is coming out this year. I think for certain we're going to see all of it to some extent. Maybe not Pokemon, because they might save Scarlet and Violet for a specific Pokemon Direct. I think for certain we're going to be seeing more Splatoon 3, and I'm mostly hoping for I want to see my new idols. I'm very superficial. I want to see the top level stuff from these games, and that means show me the idols. Let me hear some Squiddy idle music. We're probably going to see some more of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but Nintendo's actually been heavily leaning into that game and those announcements on their social media, so they might not. They might really not have much to share new on the direct front. But aside from what we know about coming out this year, because those are kind of gimmies, what else are we going to see? So Breath of the Wild 2 is an important one to talk about. If you have been living under a rock, good for you, but I have to break the news to you now that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 was originally promised for this year. It has now been pushed to 2023. My guess would be March 2023. Just match it all up with Breath of the Wild 1. Why not? I don't know, guys. I don't know if we're going to see it just yet, because if it's not coming out this year, I feel like they're going to want to throw us a bone of some form. It might be in the form of this is the title, or it might be as far as giving us a story trailer. It would be really, really nice if they wanted to give us an actual release date. I don't know if they're going to do that. Even if it's coming out early next year, they might not be anywhere near close enough to give us a really big trailer or a really big release date. Not to say that they don't have it made and ready, just to say that they might not want to share it until we're way closer. The question is this going to be the event where they give us everything? Can you not? I'm going to guess that we are going to get something, but wait, there's more to that statement. We're going to get something Zelda, and it won't be Breath of the Wild 2. Breath of the Wild 2 was supposed to be this year, but it's not now. But what if it was time for Wind Waker HD to come to Switch finally? Wind Waker is my favorite game. I think Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD port makes too much sense to ignore. Doesn't need a lot of upgrading. What I'm really, really hoping for is for them to be ported literally as a 2-pack. $60 2-pack. Get them out there. Here you go on Switch. Be still my heart. I'd buy 10 copies. I think it makes a lot of sense timing-wise. Throw these Zelda fans a bone. Here's a game to tide you over until Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. The question is, have they been working on it? Because if they haven't been working on it, it's kind of too late to just decide to throw us a bone this late in the game if it wants to come out this year. This year, Zelda, Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD on the Switch. Go. And then in that same regard, I'm going to say we're not going to see Breath of the Wild 2. They're going to say we're still diligently working on it. You'll hear more from us later this year. To be clear, I would love to see Breath of the Wild 2. But I also think it'll break my little heart because I'm going to have to wait for it for another year or so. Metroid Prime 4 is the other very long-term development at this point because it kind of got scrapped at one point, repicked up by Retro Studios, and has been in production ever since. I don't feel super strongly that it's super close to coming out, although it could be farther along than we think. If you were to go back and look at my E3 predictions from the past several years, you would see that I really had no faith that we'd see Metroid Prime 4 any year except last year. What I said was, this is the year that I would not be as surprised if I saw Metroid Prime 4. And so I'm still kind of in that state. What I have also been predicting for the past several years is Metroid Prime Trilogy HD for the Switch, which I still, God is my witness, that game is coming out at some point. It makes too much sense, again, especially for people who are looking forward to Metroid Prime 4. It's throwing us a bone. It's getting people caught up with the Metroid Prime story. It's a thing. It's gotta happen, right? It's gotta. What I do think, and this is something I've also said before, is that they're not going to release Metroid Prime HD Trilogy until they're maybe a year away from Metroid Prime 4 because they don't want there to be this massive gap between the two. So this is my prediction. Metroid Prime HD Trilogy 2022, baby. Maybe October? Yeah, we'll go with October. Tie that with a teeny little trailer, maybe a teeny little bit of gameplay for Metroid Prime 4 and a 2023. The crowd goes wild. The virtual crowd goes wild. Moving on. This game, it's not Nintendo developed. This game was actually announced, I think, in Nintendo Direct years ago and has since launched on not Nintendo. I don't know if Nintendo would decide it was worthy of a re-announcement, since it has already technically been announced for Switch. But this is a very popular game. It makes a lot of money. So I'm going to say Genshin Impact. Maybe we'll finally get the little announcement. Fall Guys is finally coming to Switch at the end of this month. So why not just round it out when we take these games that have been announced for Switch years in the past and still haven't come out. Genshin Impact, it's a big game. I think it probably would be worthy of a direct announcement when it is ready for Switch for real. I just don't know if it is yet. Hollow Knight Silksong, the sequel, is another game to keep an eye out for, but I bet it wouldn't be announced in the Direct. Or wouldn't be shown again in the Direct. I bet that is actually one that would get stuck into Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest. That would be one of his big gets. Oh, I have a huge one that I forgot. GBA games coming to Switch. So there's a lot of credible leaks out there that seem to imply that Switch has been set up to handle GBA emulation. So Game Boy Advance, Game Boy games. So we know, right now we have NES and SNES through Nintendo Switch Online. And then we have N64 games through the Nintendo Switch Online expansion. GBA, I'm curious about where that would fit. Would it be for people who have just the base Nintendo Switch membership? I would bet you not. I bet you they would tie that in with the Nintendo Switch Online expansion, which I'm fine with because I pay for it, and I would never not pay for it because for the N64 games alone, it's worth it to me. I would definitely put money behind that being an announcement that happens. Not a lot of money, but some money. As well as the next round of which N64 games are being added potentially. Pokemon Snap is the only game that hasn't actually been released that they have announced for Nintendo Switch Online. For the N64, I mean. So after that, they could announce a bulk of them during E3 like they did with the first chunk of them, or they might not. They might just do kind of random releases announced on social media like they have with basically the NES and the SNES games that have been added. Some games I would like to see, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, especially if you could have the online features with the little mini games in those games. For GBA, there's so much they could do because they haven't touched the Game Boy library yet in the Switch. But I think one thing that's very possible, very exciting, is they could take the Pokemon GBA Game Boy games and link them up with Pokemon Home, which is now on the Switch. So it's possible. I don't know. I was surprised when they even put those on the Wii U Virtual Console. So anything's possible. Another thing related to the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass is that they've heavily used that to actually promote DLC for games. So you've got the DLC for Animal Crossing, Happy Home Paradise, which was free if you have Nintendo Switch Online expansion. And then also the Mario Kart Pass, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, is it just called Expansion Pass? A bunch of new courses, and you get free access to them if you have the Expansion Pass for online, or you can pay for them. It's very reasonably priced as it is. On that note, we're probably getting more of those at E3. I think that they're trying to throw these kind of value additions in whenever they can, especially when it comes to paid DLC. And so I'm wondering if there's a big chunk of paid DLC for something that they're ready to release that will be tied with a free release for people who have the expansion pass. And the one game that keeps coming to mind, I don't feel super duper confident in it, but I really would be so happy if it was true. The game that comes to mind is Mario Party Superstars, which has so much opportunity for DLC, for new maps. There's only 5 in the game, and as fun as they are, there's a lot of opportunity there for new mini games. There's again a lot of opportunity to bring more mini games in or new mini games. There's even opportunity to get more stickers, badges and whatnot to unlock more customization things for your card. There's just a ton of opportunity in that game for more DLC, and I still know a lot of people who are playing it, who are picking it up every week to do streams on it, whatever it is. Personally, I think that's probably my favorite thing that they released last year, which is saying something big time. I don't feel strongly that Nintendo's going to do DLC for that game, but if I got the option to choose, that's the game I would pick. So I'm just gonna say Mario Party Superstars DLC. Speaking of online, there's a lot of things I would I say this a lot, but there's a lot of things that I would personally change about the online experience with Nintendo. I don't mind paying for it, one iota. Fine with paying for an online service. I actually feel pretty good about the current price point of the Nintendo Switch Online and the expansion pass. So again, not really a prediction, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Upgrade to the Nintendo Online system overall. And while we're at it, upgrade also to the Nintendo Switch home screen, themes, badge arcade. Please. They gave us folders, but you can't put the folders on the home page of the Switch. It's only in the game library. You know my frustration, because I know you have the same frustration. There's just like a lot of little things that we look at and ask, like, why did you do this way? So I think those are all of my big realistic announcements, but there's always something that's like out of left field. So for that, I'll say, the problem is whenever I want to predict the thing that's out of left field, I want to pick whatever like I'd be most excited for. And everything that I'd be most excited for has come to fruition in the past few years, to the point that I hardly know what to ask for. Pokemon Snap on the Switch was a dream of mine. Banjo-Kazooie on the Switch was a dream of mine. And both of those things happened. Mind you, both of those things happened after many, many people told me to give up hope. So one thing that I would really like would be Kingdom Hearts to come out as a not streamed game. That ball is in Square Enix's court though, and I wouldn't trust Square Enix with my pinky finger, so oh well. Okay, my left field prediction is going to be, I'm sorry, it's not very creative. It's going to be a Zelda remake of some form. A lot of people have been saying Minish Cap or Oracle of Seasons and Ages remakes in the style of what they did with Link's Awakening, technically what Grezzo did with Link's Awakening. I don't know about that. I just feel like the style lends itself to being used for one game and not for multiple games, if that makes sense. Not to say that I don't want remakes of those games, because 100% I do, but I think they would actually be served by having their own new style. If I'm gonna get a remake of any Zelda game, Minish Cap is up there, but I think my top choice fireworks would be Link to the Past. I don't know. Link to the Past would work so well in terms of it has such a unique style with the light world, the dark world. I feel like you could do something like super new. You could take the story, you could kind of re-finesse some of the overworld and re-finesse some of the dungeons and make something like God tier with that. I want to Elite Beat Agents on the Switch. Wait! I have my left field announcement. I have it. Hope you're listening, because this is the one. Nintendogs on the Switch. Let's go. Nintendogs and Cats. In fact, it's on the Switch, so let's do Nintendogs and Cats and Gerbils or something like that. First of all, Nintendogs, amazing. Love it. I put so much time and effort into that game. Something about it is just so charming. It's really, really great for reducing stress. The music is wonderful. A lot of Nintendo games in that era had that like French cafe style of music. I honestly do believe this. I think Nintendogs would do super, super, super well on the Switch. Not a port. It would have to be a new game, spruced up for the Switch and made to work specifically with the Switch controls, but I do think Nintendogs on the Switch would be like home run. Anyway, my name is NintendoFanGirl, and those were my predictions. Will any of them be right? Probably not, but I tried my hardest. Let me know down below. Do you agree with anything I've said, everything I said, nothing I've said? Do you think we're even going to have our E3 Direct this month in a couple weeks? Are they going to announce it like soon in the next couple of days, or are they going to announce it the day before? Thank you again to Rain, my new favorite energy drink. This is rainbow sherbet flavor, my favorite. It's like nice and sweet, but no sugar. So if you like candy, you'll like this. Also, if you like caffeine, which I do. If you aren't subscribed here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, the little notification bell. Whenever we get the announcement about when or if we're having a direct, I'll hopefully be able to update whether I'm able to even live stream it. I do work like 9 to 5 on normal weekdays, so it will kind of depend on meetings and things like that. But hopefully, as long as it's only an hour or whatever, then I should be able to live stream it with all of you, or at least record my reaction to share here on YouTube. Whether it actually has the E3 label is of no consequence to me. I'm so excited for E3 season, and even when E3 is dead and gone, I'm probably going to keep calling it that because it just makes it easier for me. What else, like, just the summer game announcement season, I guess. I don't want to give Jeff Keighley the credit for creating this pocket of time because he definitely didn't. He just is happy to absorb it in E3's absence. I can't wait. It's really, for real, for true, the most wonderful time of the year for me. It's here. Leave me your comments. I promise to read every single one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you all soon. Love you. Mwah. Deku, deku, deku. Da-na-na-na-na-na. 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 Da-na-na-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Da-na-na-na-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.